marble floors when the billionaire stopped walking. The golden chandelier lights of the Grand Hotel shimmered against polished tiles, reflecting wealth in every direction. Expensive heels clicked across the lobby, assistants whispered into sleek phones, and the scent of imported lilies floated in the air. But in the middle of all that power and prestige, a billionaire froze, not because of a boardroom crisis or a stock market crash, but because of a thin, worn silver ring on the trembling hand of a single dad janitor. For a moment, the world around her blurred. The laughter, the movement, the noise, everything faded. All she could see was that ring. Before we go deeper into this emotional journey, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of promises made in the darkest moments of life. Stories like this remind us why humanity still matters. Aria Whitmore had built an empire from nothing. Tech magazines compared her strategic mind to that of legends like Elon Musk and her resilience to icons such as Oprah Winfrey. By 35, she owned one of the largest hospitality chains in the country. Her name appeared on skyscrapers. Her decisions moved markets. But no one in those polished boardrooms knew the truth about where she had started. No one except her. 20 years earlier, Aria had been just another forgotten child in a cold orphanage on the outskirts of the city. The building had peeling paint and drafty windows. Winters felt endless there. Children learned quickly not to expect miracles. They learned to eat fast, speak little, and hide their tears. It was in that orphanage courtyard, under a dying oak tree, that she met him. His name was Daniel Reyes. He was older by 2 years, already tall and protective, with eyes that held too much understanding for a boy of 14. Daniel had arrived at the orphanage after losing both parents in an accident. Instead of becoming bitter, he became everyone's shield. He shared his bread. He fixed broken toys. He stood up to bullies twice his size. Aria had been small, stubborn, and angry at the world. She hated pity. She hated promises. Promises always broke. Until Daniel made one he never intended to break. One winter evening, after Aria had been mocked for dreaming about becoming someone important, she ran outside crying. Daniel followed her into the cold courtyard. Snow clung to his worn jacket. He didn't lecture her. He didn't tell her to stop dreaming. Instead, he slipped a thin silver ring off his own finger. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't gold. It was something his mother had given him before she died. He told her that one day, when she became someone powerful, she should never forget the kids who felt invisible. He promised that no matter where life took them, they would both rise. He pressed the ring into her hand, then hesitated. She shook her head and pushed it back. She told him to keep it, to wear it, and to remember that she would prove everyone wrong. They sealed the promise not with signatures, but with hope. A year later, Daniel was adopted. Aria never saw him again. Life didn't magically transform after that. Aria aged out of the system at 18 with a suitcase and a scholarship she fought for. She worked 2 jobs through college, slept in her car for a semester, and faced rejection after rejection in a world that valued connections she didn't have. But she remembered that courtyard. She remembered the ring. She remembered the promise. She built her first startup from a rented basement office. Investors dismissed her. Competitors mocked her. But she outworked them all. Within a decade, she wasn't just surviving, she was dominating. Yet success came with loneliness. Awards couldn't hug you at night. Headlines couldn't replace family. And now, in the gleaming lobby of her newest 5-star hotel, that past had just walked back into her life holding a mop. Daniel didn't recognize her at first. Why would he? The shy orphan girl had transformed into a poised billionaire dressed in tailored silk. Security trailed behind her. Managers stood nervously at attention. But Aria recognized him instantly. Time had carved lines into his face. His shoulders were broader, heavier with responsibility. A faint scar traced along his jaw. Yet the eyes were the same, steady, kind, protective. And on his right hand was that thin silver ring. Her breath caught. The promise hadn't been forgotten. She asked for his employment file without explaining why. It revealed a life that made her chest tighten. Daniel had left college when his wife became ill. Medical bills swallowed their savings. After she passed away, he became a single father to a little girl named Sophia. Without a degree, he worked at her hotel for 2 years. 2 years under her roof. Arya locked herself in her office after reading the file. Guilt and awe battled inside her. She had built scholarships for orphaned youth. She funded shelters. She donated millions anonymously. But she hadn't known that the boy who once protected her was scrubbing floors in her building. She watched security footage that evening, not out of suspicion, but curiosity. She saw Daniel during his shift. He worked meticulously. When guests dropped napkins, he picked them up before anyone noticed. When a child spilled juice, he knelt to comfort her before cleaning the mess. During his break, he video-called Sophia, smiling in a way that softened every hardship etched on his face. He hadn't become bitter either. The next morning, Arya walked into the lobby without her usual entourage. She dismissed the manager and approached Daniel while he replaced trash liners. Up close, she could see exhaustion beneath his calm expression. She didn't speak of the past immediately. She asked about his daughter, about his schedule, about how long he had worked there. He answered politely, unaware of the storm inside her. Then her eyes dropped deliberately to the ring. His fingers instinctively curled, protective. She asked him where he got it. Daniel hesitated. He said it was from someone important. From a girl in an orphanage who believed she would change the world. He admitted he didn't know what happened to her. But he kept the ring to remind himself that even if he never became rich, he could still keep his word by being good. Arya felt tears sting her eyes for the first time in years. She told him her name. He stared at her, confusion shifting into shock. The mop slipped from his hand and clattered against the floor. He searched her face, as if trying to find the stubborn orphan girl in the billionaire before him. Recognition dawned slowly, then all at once. What followed wasn't dramatic shouting or cinematic music. It was silence heavy with memory. 2 lives that had traveled in opposite directions now standing inches apart. Arya didn't offer him charity. She offered him partnership. She revealed that she was launching a foundation expansion focused on transitional housing and employment training for single parents who aged out of foster care. She said she needed someone who understood struggle, not from textbooks, but from living it. Someone who knew how it felt to be invisible. She told him she trusted him. Daniel resisted at first. Pride again. Fear again. He wasn't suited for boardrooms, he insisted. He cleaned them. But Arya reminded him of the courtyard. Of snow. Of a promise. He had once told her she would become someone powerful. He had once believed in her before anyone else did. Now it was her turn. The transition wasn't easy. Daniel stumbled through meetings. He doubted himself constantly. Executives questioned her decision privately. But Arya stood firm. She assigned him mentors, training, and gradual responsibility. Months passed. The foundation opened its first housing complex under Daniel's oversight. It wasn't luxurious, but it was dignified. Clean rooms. Childcare support. Job placement programs. Counseling services. Walls painted in warm colors instead of institutional gray. At the grand opening, Daniel stood at the podium, hands slightly shaking. In the crowd were families who once felt forgotten. Single mothers. Fathers with toddlers on their hips. children who looked uncertain but hopeful. Sophia stood in the front row, holding a small bouquet of daisies. Daniel didn't speak about wealth. He spoke about promises. About how sometimes the world knocks you down so hard you forget who you were meant to be. But if even one person believes in you, that belief can echo for decades. Arya watched from the side, heart full. The media soon picked up the story, not of a billionaire's generosity, but of a janitor-turned-foundation director who once protected a little girl in an orphanage. People were moved not by money, but by loyalty. Over time, Daniel grew into his role naturally. His compassion shaped policies more effectively than any MBA ever could. Employee turnover dropped. Beneficiaries found stable jobs. Children in the program began graduating high school at higher rates. And Arya felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. One evening, long after the office lights dimmed, she stood alone in the courtyard of the new housing complex. Snow began to fall gently, mirroring a memory from decades ago. Daniel joined her, hands in his coat pockets. The silver ring still rested on his finger. He told her he almost sold it once when medical bills piled up. But every time he considered it, he remembered that it symbolized more than metal. It symbolized belief. She confessed that during her hardest nights, sleeping in her car, facing rejection, she imagined him somewhere out there, keeping his word. That image kept her going. Their lives had not followed the same path. She had wealth. He had endured quiet suffering. But neither had broken the promise. And perhaps that was the real fortune. Before this story comes to its close, if it has touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and comment below. Let us know where you're watching from and whether you believe that small acts of kindness can change destinies. Your engagement helps more stories like this reach people who need hope. And here's a special request: comment the word promise if you believe that no act of kindness is ever wasted. Years later, the foundation expanded nationally. Thousands of families found stability. Sophia earned a scholarship funded by the program and chose to study social work. She often told people that her father once cleaned floors in the same buildings where he now signed partnership agreements. Arya never removed Daniel's name from the leadership board, even when advisors suggested bringing in someone with more credentials. She had learned long ago that character outweighed titles. The ring remained simple. Silver. Worn. Unremarkable to most eyes. But to two former orphans, it represented survival, loyalty, and the unbreakable thread of a promise.